So what takes more artistic skill? Like carving a life-size statue out of a literal block of solid marble, or making a reader's heart just completely race using fewer than 400 words.
Oh, wow. That is a question.
Right. Think about that for a second. We are so conditioned to associate artistic genius with massive scale.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the 1,000-page novel that doubles as a doorstop, or the 3-hour cinematic epic. We just assume that if something is going to leave a lasting mark on our psyche, it needs to, take up a massive amount of physical or temporal space to do it.
Yeah, it's the assumption of sheer volume. I mean, we think that if an author throws enough adjectives, enough backstory, and, well, enough historical context at us, the emotional weight is bound to eventually break through.
Exactly. Just overwhelm the reader until they feel something.
Right. But from a psychological standpoint, that's actually not how human attention works. Overload often just leads to numbing.
Yeah, and that is why today we're doing something completely different. Welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So our mission today is to completely deconstruct a piece of microfiction. It's a beautifully evocative literary excerpt titled Moonlight and Marble, The Art of Desire, specifically the segment Story 1, Moonlight and Marble.
It is such a fascinating piece.
It really is. And to you, listening to this right now, whether you're a writer trying to figure out how to do more with less, a lover of art, or just someone who wants to understand the actual mechanics of why certain words make you physically feel something, you are in the right place. We are going to look at the invisible architecture of intimacy.
Because that is exactly what this piece is. It's architectural. The author uses sensory data, environmental limitations, and the concept of physical art to construct a profound emotional reality. And they do it with such extreme, ruthless editing that every single noun and verb is carrying the weight of a whole chapter.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to jump straight into how this text builds its world, because it doesn't ease you in.
No, not at all.
It drops you right onto the physical floor of the space. The opening line reads, "The rain had stopped, leaving the glass canopy of the Montparnasse studio slick and reflective under a pale Parisian moon."
Just that word, Montparnasse. It's doing an immense amount of heavy lifting before we even see a character.
Exactly. For anyone who might not be steeped in, 1920s French art history, Montparnasse isn't just a neighborhood in Paris. It's a cultural shorthand.
Right, it's a whole vibe.
Yeah. When you hear that word, you don't just think of a street. You think of bohemian chaos.
That's right.
You think of starving artists, philosophers arguing in cafes at 3 a.m., Picasso, Modigliani.
Oh, for sure.
It's an environment that is historically synonymous with a complete rejection of traditional, sterile bourgeois life. So by placing the studio there, the author is planting a flag. They are telling the reader subconsciously that the rules of the outside, corporate, polite world do not apply in this room.
And look at the physical structure of that room, too. We have a glass canopy that is slick and reflective. That glass is serving as a literal and metaphorical lens.
Oh, I like that.
Think about what a glass canopy does. It separates you from the elements, so it keeps the rain off your head, but it refuses to block the world out visually. It allows the pale Parisian moon to pour right in.
Which sets up this incredible atmospheric juxtaposition. In other words, the author is slamming two totally opposite vibes together to see sparks fly.
Yeah.
We have the ethereal, distant, completely untouchable visual of the moon up above, but the very next sentence drags us forcefully down to the ground.
Right. Inside, the air was cool, carrying the grounding, earthy scent of damp clay, white marble dust, and turpentine.
Let's talk about the mechanics of that. Why start with smell? I was reading up on how the brain processes sensory details in literature, and it turns out focusing on scent is basically a psychological cheat code.
It absolutely is a cheat code. When you read a visual description, like the moon, your brain processes it through the visual cortex, which requires a bit of cognitive translation.
Okay.
But olfactory processing, smell, is entirely different. The olfactory bulb has a direct neural link to the amygdala and the hippocampus.
And those are the areas for emotion, right?
Exactly. The areas responsible for raw emotion and memory. It bypasses the thalamus entirely. So when the author gives you 3 hyper-specific smells, they aren't just describing a room, they are hijacking your brain's emotional center.
Wow. And what a specific cocktail of smells it is, too. Damp clay, white marble dust, and turpentine.
Yeah, damp clay is primordial. It is wet earth. It's the material of creation that demands your bare hands. It's heavy, it's messy, gets under your fingernails.
Right.
White marble dust, on the other hand, is the residue of violence. Marble is elegant and permanent, but to get dust, you have to chisel, grind, and strike stone. It implies intense physical friction.
And then there's the turpentine. I mean, I can physically smell that word when I read it.
It's so potent.
Turpentine is a harsh, biting chemical solvent. It burns the inside of your nostrils. It's what you use to strip paint away, to clean the raw reality of the work off your brushes. So you have the romantic, untouchable moon above, and the wet dirt, grinding friction, and harsh chemicals below.
The author is telling you right here at the starting line that the romance you are about to witness isn't some sanitized fairy tale fantasy. It is grounded in the dirty, messy, physical reality of creation.
Which brings us to the people actually occupying this messy reality. We find our characters in total, absolute stasis.
Just completely frozen.
Yeah, Chloé stood near a half-finished sculpture, her silk robe tied loosely at her waist. She was looking out at the faint, silver silhouettes of the rooftops. And then there's Gabriel, who watched her from the chaise lounge in the corner, a sketch pad resting forgotten on his knees.
They are frozen in amber, a complete tableau.
But here's where I have to push back a little on the text, or at least, play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
The text says Gabriel was completely captivated by the way the moonlight fell across her bare shoulders, turning her skin into a living sculpture of shadow and light. Now, in a lot of literary contexts, having a male artist sit in the corner staring at a woman in a loosely tied robe and calling her a sculpture is, well, it's inherently objectifying.
Right, the classic male gaze.
Exactly. It feels like that tired trope, where the woman is just a pretty passive object placed in his studio for his aesthetic pleasure. Isn't that what's happening here?
I completely see why you'd flag that. If the scene stopped right there, you would be absolutely right. It would just be another iteration of the male genius and his passive muse.
Right.
But you have to look at the psychological framing. He isn't just looking at her with a predatory or purely possessive gaze. His sketch pad is forgotten on his knees.
Ah, right. The forgotten pad.
Yeah, the actual physical art he was trying to create has been completely superseded by his reverence for her existence in that space. He isn't trying to capture her on paper. He is allowing himself to be captured by her.
So you're saying the living sculpture line isn't about reducing her to an object. It's about elevating her to the highest form of reverence he possesses.
Precisely. For a sculptor, a piece of art is the center of the universe. It is something to be studied, respected, and treated with immense care. By perceiving her as a sculpture of shadow and light, he is applying his deepest, most profound language of value to her.
That makes a lot of sense.
He is fully present in the observation of her beauty, not as something to own, but as something to witness.
I really like that distinction. Think about the people you interact with every day. Think about the person you might live with. When was the last time you actually looked at them?
Oh, it's so rare.
Not just glancing over to see if they're holding the TV remote or checking if they're ready to leave the house, but actually observing the way the ambient light hits their jawline. We get so functionally blind to the people we love, we stop seeing them and start just processing their utility. Gabriel is doing the exact opposite here.
And that level of intense, focused observation requires stillness. If they were bustling around the studio cleaning up the turpentine, we wouldn't feel the weight of his attention. The absolute absence of motion is what makes the space feel heavy.
But that stillness can't last. I mean, the human brain actually gets agitated by prolonged stasis.
Right, it demands a resolution.
And the author clearly knows this, because the moment the narrative shifts into motion, it feels incredibly loud, even though it's described as silent. Let's look at the choreography here. Gabriel set the pad down and approached her slowly, his bare feet silent on the cold concrete floor. He stood behind her, not touching her yet, simply letting his warmth break the chill of the room.
That phrase, not touching her yet, is doing phenomenal work.
I was trying to figure out how to explain the physics of this moment. A lot of people use the cliche of, like, the calm before the storm, but that doesn't quite capture the physical effort of this scene.
No, it's too passive.
Exactly. To me, it's like holding two incredibly strong magnets just a millimeter apart, with the repelling poles facing each other. The closer they get without actually touching, the more physical effort it takes to maintain that gap. You can feel the invisible kinetic energy vibrating in that negative space. The absence of the touch is an active, forceful thing.
That's a much more accurate mechanical analogy. The text is drawing the reader's absolute focus to the negative space between their bodies. And into that negative space, the author introduces thermal dynamics, letting his warmth break the chill of the room.
Because we established earlier that the air inside was cool from the recent rain. So Gabriel is acting as a literal radiating heat source. This is something anyone can relate to, that incredibly intimate sensation of being so physically close to someone that you can feel their body heat on your skin before they ever lay a hand on you.
It demonstrates a profound invasion of her personal space, but an entirely welcomed one. Intimacy has commenced without a single point of physical contact.
And when the contact finally does happen, it completely dismantles that objectification concern I brought up earlier. He reaches out and gently takes her hand, his thumb smoothing over her knuckles, which were still lightly dusted with chalk. This right here, this is the turning point of the entire narrative.
The chalk dust. It is, without a doubt, the most important detail in the text.
It fundamentally rewrites everything we thought we knew about the power dynamic in this room. If she's just a muse, her hands are clean, but her knuckles are lightly dusted with chalk. What does that tell us?
It tells us she has been working. She isn't standing there merely to be observed. She is a creator. She is an artist in her own right. Her hands are marked by the same medium that defines the space,
Which completely equalizes them. They are both architects of this messy, tactile world. And I want to look closely at Gabriel's reaction to that chalk. He doesn't wipe it away.
Right, he doesn't clean it.
He doesn't brush it off like it's dirt that needs to be cleaned so he can access the real her underneath. He smooths his thumb over it. He is acknowledging it. He is physically revering the evidence of her labor and her agency.
This touches on a deeply fascinating psychological concept regarding how we form romantic attachments. Often we talk about relationships as a dynamic between an active partner and a passive one. The pursuer and the pursued, the observer and the observed.
Yeah, that's the standard script.
But the most profound, enduring partnerships are built on mutual creation. It's two people actively molding each other, respecting the fact that the other person is an autonomous force in the world. Gabriel smoothing his thumb over the chalk is him saying, I see the artist in you, and I revere it as much as I revere you.
That is such a powerful insight. And it makes the tiny fraction of dialogue we get immediately after this land with so much more impact. After all this silent observation, the thermal radiation, the chalk, Gabriel murmurs, "You're perfectly still," his voice echoing softly in the high-ceilinged room. And Chloé leans back against him and says, "I was just waiting for you."
It's remarkably sparse, but think about what those lines are actually achieving mechanically. They aren't conveying plot, they aren't dumping exposition about their day.
No, it's an extension of the rhythm. "You're perfectly still" isn't a question, it's not a demand, it's an auditory confirmation of a physical reality. He's acknowledging her state of being.
And her response confirms it.
Right. "I was just waiting for you." Confirms that her stillness wasn't passive daydreaming, it was active anticipation. She was holding the tension on her end of the rope.
It proves that the psychological tension we, the readers, were feeling is explicitly shared and understood by the characters. They are on the exact same wavelength. To use a musical analogy, it's the verbal equivalent of two jazz musicians locking eyes across the stage before they drop into a complex, improvised duet. They are confirming the tempo.
"You're perfectly still. I was waiting for you." Boom, the tempo is set. And note the environmental acoustics here, his voice echoing softly in the high-ceilinged room. The architecture itself is participating. The sheer volume of the space they are in amplifies the quietness of their exchange, making it feel cinematic and grand despite being so intimate.
Which means the invisible magnets you mentioned earlier can no longer hold that millimeter of distance. The repelling force has to give way to the attraction.
Exactly. The shared anticipation inevitably reaches its breaking point, and the narrative slams us from this quiet, almost reverent observation into intense, undeniable, raw physicality.
Oh, completely.
Let's look at how the author handles this collision. Gabriel's hands move to the silk tie of her robe, undoing it with an unhurried reverence. The fabric slipped off her shoulders and pooled at her feet, leaving her entirely bare to his gaze. He lifted her easily, setting her on the edge of the smooth wooden workbench.
If you track the sensory data in those 3 sentences, it is an absolute bombardment of the tactile cortex.
Yes. Break that down. First, we have the specific friction of a silk tie. Silk on silk has a very distinct, almost liquid drag to it.
Right.
Then the sensation of gravity as the fabric slips off bare skin. Then the pooling of that fabric on the cold concrete we established earlier. And then the sudden jarring contact with a smooth, heavy wooden workbench.
Our brains process tactile information through mechanoreceptors in our skin, which sends signals to the somatosensory cortex. By rapidly shifting the imagined textures, from the ultra-softness of silk to the rigid hardness of concrete and wood, the author forces the reader's brain to constantly recalibrate.
Wow, so it's like a physical disorientation.
Exactly. It creates a feeling of sensory vertigo. You are physically disoriented in the best possible way.
And the crowning contrast comes right after. The contrast of the cool wood beneath her and the intense radiating heat of Gabriel's body as he stepped between her thighs was electric.
We are back to the atmospheric juxtaposition from the very first sentence. The pale moon and the harsh turpentine. Now it's the cold wood and the burning body heat. The energy of the scene doesn't just come from the characters themselves, it comes from the friction between the characters and the materials of the room.
I am obsessed with the fact that he puts her on the workbench. He doesn't carry her to some plush velvet chaise lounge or a luxurious bed. He puts her on the scarred, solid block of wood where the art is made, where unyielding materials are beaten and carved into shape. It's such a grounded, utilitarian choice that makes the intimacy feel incredibly visceral.
It sets the stage for the vocabulary that follows. The text describes their mouths meeting in a passionate, desperate collision. After the unhurried reverence of the silk tie, this sudden violence of a collision shows the absolute structural failure of their restraint.
The dam has burst.
Exactly, the dam has burst. But look closely at the verbs used during this collision.
Every touch was an exploration. His hands mapping the familiar curve of her waist, her fingers digging into the muscles of his back.
Mapping, digging. This is not the standard, flowery vocabulary of a romance novel. This is the stubborn, aggressive language of geography and sculpture. When an artist is working with a raw block of clay, they are exploring the form, they are mapping its structural limits, they are physically digging their fingers into the material to force it to yield.
The lovers are treating each other as both the sculptor and the sculpted medium. This is where the boundary between the ego of the creator and the object of creation completely dissolves. They are mutually shaping one another, and Chloé is a fiercely active participant here.
She really is.
She isn't just receiving his touch, her fingers are digging into his muscles. She is exerting her own artistic force on his physical form.
It's the ultimate realization of the chalk dust on her knuckles. The act of physical intimacy here is portrayed as an extension of their artistic process. They aren't clocking out of their identity as artists to go be lovers. Their love is an artistic act.
And the brilliance of this piece is how it takes this intensely hyper-localized microscopic interaction, two bodies on a wooden bench, and zooms out to connect it to the rotation of the literal earth. The text reads, "They moved together in a slow, fluid cadence, their breathing filling the quiet atelier, completely synchronized with the quiet rhythm of the Parisian night."
This touches on the concept of environmental psychology and circadian synchronization. When human beings reach a state of profound physiological and psychological alignment, often called a flow state, their perception of time and boundaries shifts. The author is suggesting that their connection is so deep it breaks the borders of their own skin.
It's concentric circles of intimacy. Their breathing fills the room. The room is a part of Montparnasse. Montparnasse is a part of Paris. Paris is sleeping under the moon. By synchronizing with the city, their deeply private, isolated act becomes something elemental.
Right, it expands outward.
It's no longer just two people in a room. It's a rhythm that belongs to the wider universe. It's an incredibly cinematic pull-out shot.
Which is necessary to transition the reader into the psychological come-down of the final section. You cannot sustain a desperate collision forever. The narrative has to settle. And the way the author uses the environment to reflect that settling is masterful.
The text jumps forward. Hours later, the moon had drifted high into the sky, casting a pure white glow over the entire studio. Let's talk about the evolution of light here.
Well, in the opening of the story, we had a pale moon casting silver silhouettes. A silhouette, by definition, requires shadow. It is an outline defined by what is hidden in darkness. That lighting perfectly mirrored the psychological state of the characters. They were filled with tension, mystery, and unfulfilled anticipation.
But now the moon is directly overhead, and it's casting a pure white glow over the entire space. The shadows have been completely eradicated.
Because the tension has been eradicated. The color white in literature almost universally symbolizes clarity, peace, and total resolution. The visual environment is simply an external monitor displaying their internal psychological state. They are bathed in clarity. The storm of the collision has entirely passed.
And in this pure white glow, they have relocated. Chloé lay curled against Gabriel on the low bed in the loft section of the atelier, her head resting securely on his chest. They've left the cold, hard workbench of the physical collision and ascended up into the loft. They've moved from the site of labor to the site of rest.
But look at Gabriel's hands. This is the detail that absolutely fascinates me.
He held her close, his fingers tracing slow, abstract patterns on her bare arm.
Even in total exhaustion, even in the dead of night, the physical compulsion to create doesn't turn off.
It reminds me of watching a classical pianist sitting at a dinner table, and without even realizing it, their fingers are tapping out a complex sonata on the tablecloth. The art is so deeply embedded in their neurology that it becomes involuntary. For Gabriel, the medium has changed from clay and charcoal to the warm skin of her arm, but the mechanism of creation continues. He is tracing abstract patterns. It's a quiet, looping, endless act of creation, driven entirely by affection rather than ambition.
Which brings us to the ultimate thesis of the entire piece, delivered in the final sentence. Wrapped together beneath a heavy linen sheet, they fell asleep, completely insulated by the quiet sanctuary of their art and each other.
Insulated by the quiet sanctuary of their art. I had to read that line 3 times. It completely redefines what art means in the context of their lives.
It does. We usually think of art as something performative, something you create to show the world, to be judged, to be sold, to gain status. But here, their art serves the exact opposite function. It is a psychological fortress. It is the literal wall that keeps the world at bay.
Think back to that glass canopy we discussed at the very beginning. The glass lets the beautiful, pale light of the moon in, but it keeps the harsh, freezing rain out. Their art, their shared passion, their mutual understanding of the chalk and the turpentine functions exactly like that canopy.
It's the perfect metaphor.
It allows the beauty of the world to inspire them, but it provides a rigid, structural insulation against the noise, the demands, and the abrasiveness of reality outside that studio.
They have constructed a bespoke universe meant only for 2 people, and the heavy linen sheet is the final, tangible layer of that insulation.
It's such a brilliant material choice to end on, linen. Not silk. The silk robe from earlier was about the unknotting, the anticipation, the display, the friction. But linen is heavy, woven, breathable, and enduring. Linen is practical. It's for survival. It's for sleep and sanctuary. Every single word in this piece is doing exactly what it was hired to do.
The narrative arc is flawless. It moves us from the untouchable moonlight to the biting turpentine, through the electrostatic tension of unmade touch, into the violent collision of bodies on wood, and finally up into the pure white sanctuary of linen and rest. It delivers an entire psychological life cycle of intimacy in a handful of paragraphs.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. To you, the listener, the ultimate so what of this deep dive is this. Moonlight and Marble is proof that impact does not require immense scale. By anchoring profound abstract emotions to hyper-specific, tangible physical details like the bite of a chemical, the dust on a knuckle, the chill of concrete, an author can bypass your logical brain and make you physically feel the intimacy of the characters in your own nervous system.
It teaches us that intimacy is not just a feeling floating in a void. It is a physical environment. The space we are in, the objects we touch, the air we breathe, they are all active collaborators in how we connect with another human being.
Collaborators in how we connect. We don't love in a vacuum.
Yeah.
We love on scarred wooden workbenches. We love wrapped in heavy linen. We love surrounded by the smell of damp earth. And so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. Consider the idea of the sanctuary that Chloé and Gabriel built. Their mutual passion for creation acted as the physical and emotional fortress that insulated their relationship from the world. So my question for you is this. What is the insulating material in your own life? What is the shared passion, the specific physical environment, or the silent, unspoken rhythm that creates a barrier between your most intimate moments and the relentless noise of the outside world? What exactly is your sanctuary built of?